Hello guys, Dr. Chege here again, and in this lesson, this is lesson 3, I believe, lesson 3 or 4, not sure. We'll be tackling the strategic role or importance of procurement. Now, some of the lessons that we'll be tackling within this next few series will have to do with the evolution of procurement as a function. In other words, how far or how many changes have we encountered as we progressed in the procurement field? Those are some of the issues that we'll be addressing. But this video, to be specific, will be addressing the strategic role of procurement. In other words, for every firm to succeed, procurement must be a central function. And there are several reasons why this is the case, and I'll give one. The first one is what we call profitability. The second one is what we call due diligence. The third one is what we call risk management. And the fourth one is what we call relationship management. Now, these are not the only reasons why procurement is important. These are just the key reasons that we have: profitability, due diligence, risk management, and relationship management. Now, I'll go to the profitability aspect, and I want you to think of it in a very simplistic way. In other words, mathematically speaking, we'll take profit as a function of the sales revenue minus the costs of arriving at those sales. It could be advertising costs, it could be material costs, and what have you. So if we want to increase profit, and this is what I want you to think in systems thinking. If we want to increase profit over here, and the equation is sales minus costs, there are two ways we can do it. We can increase the sales and keep the cost constant, or we can reduce the costs and keep the sales constant. For example, if our sales in terms of units was 100,000 multiplied by the price, we have 100,000 in sales, and our total cost of operation is 50,000. Therefore, we would assume simplistically, I don't want to go into the complex details of the mathematics, we can assume that 50k is our profit if you deduct 100 from the 50k. Now, if we want to increase the 50k, which is our goal or profit, what we can do is that we can increase our sales and we keep our cost constant, or we reduce our costs and keep our sales constant. That's how we can arrive at this. So if you want to think about procurement, I want you to observe it around this section over here, because most of the costs that will be incurred in any given organization will include the material cost, and material costs are handled by the procurement department. So one way in which the procurement function can contribute to the profitability of the overall organization is by controlling the costs. A simple strategy can be, just to show you several strategies that you can use, a simple strategy would be, if the firm was insourcing, they can decide to outsource. This is one way they can reduce the costs. If the firm was using manual ordering systems, they go to e-ordering systems, which are way cheaper by at least 45% as per the statistics. If we are looking at our suppliers, we can rationalize them. This is a term that we'll be looking at ahead. And what we mean by supplier rationalization is, if we had about 1,000 suppliers, we reduce them to about 500 so that we can have long-term relationships with these ones and negotiate for a better price. That's another way. Another way you can control the cost is by competitive bidding. Competitive bidding. This is where you get the lowest price in the market that provides the highest technical specifications for the item that you are looking for. So in terms of the importance of procurement, controlling costs is one of the most important aspects of this. Now, let me give you a good example. In practice, we have Dell over here, then you have HP as a company. Now, Dell uses what you call a make-to-order system. In other words, they do not produce until customers trigger the orders. HP, on the other hand, uses what you call a make-to-stock system. In other words, they produce the computers, stock them, then push them to the customers through marketing. Now, what you will find is that this system over here has less stock in the organization. This here has the highest stock. Now, you would assume that this system would not work and this one would be the best one. But in reality, the most competitive firm between these two is Dell. The reason is electronics tend to lose value very, very fast. You're talking of at least 0.1% per week. This seems minimal. But if you're holding 1 billion in stock, this number over here tends to build up pretty fast. And when you're talking about this huge cost, they will again eat up into the profit of the company. So bad was the situation for HP that they had to merge with Compaq to be able to be competitive. Now, we'll look at this case much later. But this is the perfect example of procurement using, how would I put it? Procurement being a source of cost reduction. Now, we go to the other one, which is risk management. Risk management. Now, I want you to think of it this way. There are three types of risks in the procurement function. There are the risks that the supplier is exposed to. There are the risks that the buyer is exposed to. And there are the risks that the supplier and buyer are exposed to as a unit or as an ecosystem. Now, all risks can be classified into the following categories. I'll just draw the matrix for you here. Let me draw it on this right hand corner. All risks can be classified into the following. You can look at the probability of that risk happening and the impact of that risk after it happens. And under the impact, you can have a very high impact if that risk does happen, or a low impact. Under the probability, you can have a very high probability of a risk happening or a low probability. Now, all your procurement risks in this case will be classified into four: high, high-low, high-low, and low-low. Now, for example, what are some of the risks that we can think of when it comes to the Kenyan economy? You can talk of political risks. That's one. You can talk of even the pandemic risk. That's another one. Pandemic risk, that's another one. You can talk of FX risks. That is the foreign exchange risk. You can talk of supply disruptions. Can be a risk. So I'll stick to these four just for now. For now. Now, if we look at political risks, would we classify them under impact high? Sorry, probability high, or impact high, probability low, or probability high, impact low, probability low, impact low? Now, one of the things that we have here is under Kenya, if you're looking at the electioneering period, we can say the probability of riots and so forth happening is very, very high over here. And the impact is very, very high over here. So we can put political risks under this section. And if we go to the pandemic risk, using the general timeline overall, for example, 50 years and so forth, we can say that not so many pandemics have affected the economy. So the probability of us having another pandemic as serious as the corona pandemic is very, very low. But the impact, should it happen, is very, very high. So we can put pandemic over here. Now, we go to another one, FX risk. Our foreign exchange fluctuations, if you're importing and exporting, we can say the probability of those fluctuations is so high, but the impact can be classified between high or low over here. So we can say FX can either be here or under this section. Now, under price supply disruptions, would we classify them under probability high or impact high? Now, you can think about that. Now, once you classify all your risks over here, it is the responsibility of the procurement manager to come up with a strategy in view with the risk in line or in conjunction with the risk management department on the best strategy to manage each risk. Now we say if the impact is high, and the probability of that risk happening is high, we say you transfer that risk. Now, another example would be if the probability is low and the impact is low, we say you simply absorb this risk. Do nothing, just absorb it. Now, if the probability is low and the impact is high, over here, probability is low, impact is high, we also say you can transfer or you can partner with other people to transfer that risk. Now, I want you guys to do your research and tell me what will be the action to take if the probability of a risk happening is high over here and the impact is low. What exactly do you do around this section over here? Now, I want to give you an example of a transfer strategy in procurement. A transfer strategy in procurement. The first one is you can insure. When you insure yourself against a risk, you are transferring that risk to another company, which assures you that should that risk happen, you will be repudiated. In other words, you will be restored to your original position. That's insurance. Another way we can use this is to transfer those goods to the supply chain or upside the supply chain using distributors or retailers using what you call an RMI system or a VMI system. A retailer managed system is where you push the goods to the retailer. A vendor managed system is where it's managed by the vendor. An example of an RMI system would be this. If I bake the bread as Broadways, if I am distributing and I am the retailer, I am taking in a lot of risks because chances of it expiring is very, very high. So what do? I give this to distributors who give it to the retailers, who give it to the guys on the bikes to transfer it all the way to the customer. So as the bread moves along this supply chain, the risk of expiry is transferred to the next person. It moves from Broadways, goes to the distributor, moves to the distributor, goes to the retailer, goes to the retailer and on to the bike guy before it gets to the customer. Now, that is an example of risk transfer. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the relationship management aspect and due diligence. Thank you.